to our next panel. And the theme of this session is winning customers in a world of bots, AI, and automation. This session would be moderated by Mr. Mukesh Jain, CTIO, Insights and Data India, Capgemini. Mukesh is a techno-biz leader with 25 years of experience in leading multinational organizations in India and leading business globally for delivering innovative results. Joining him are our esteemed panelists, Mr. Tushar S. Vagal, CIO, Larsen and Toubro Realty. Tushar is a dynamic IT leader in conceptualizing and implementing IoT for smart campus and digital technology solutions. With more than 30 years of experience, he also provides solution architecture for enterprise-wide software deployments. Our next panelist is Mr. Mayank Bhargava, CIO, Pramerica Life Insurance. Mayank is a seasoned professional with over 15 years in insurance industry and significant experience of implementing and managing end-to-end business applications, providing domain consulting, including regulatory aspects, business transformation, and stakeholder management. Our next panelist is Dr. Anish Agarwal, Director, Data and Analytics, New NatWest Group. Anish is a professional with 19 years of experience with exceptional expertise of delivering value to innovative use of data across a spectrum of industry verticals. Our next panelist is Mr. Manish Bhatia, President, Technology, Analytics and Capability, Lendingkart. Manish is an accomplished leader with an experience of over 25 years. He is responsible for building a scalable technology stack for a company while driving strategic efficiency and improving overall customer acquisition and experience as well as business growth. Our next panelist is Mr. Yusuf, Pachmariwala, EVP, Operations and Customer Service, Tata AIA Life Insurance. Yusuf is an informed opinion leader with an experience of more than 25 years. He is currently heading customer service and business conservation units, managing all customer touchpoints. Last but not the least, Mr. Ganesh Ramachandran, Global CIO, Alkem Laboratories. Ganesh is a techno-functional business leader and management consulting professional with over 25 years of experience across technology strategy, implementation, consulting, and business development across diverse industries. Thank you, esteemed panelists, to be a part of this panel. Now I would like to hand over to our esteemed moderator, Mr. Mukesh Jain. Over to you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's a great panel. We had a short hurdle yesterday also. Some of the best minds I can say from India, we are having it here. Today we are going to talk about how do you win customers in the world of bots, AI and automation. Customers, we all love customers, right? So to kick off this panel discussion, we're going to go round table, quickly introducing ourselves, and then we will start with some of the specific questions which we have gathered over a period of time. So let me start with me. Mukesh Jain, Chief Technology Innovation Officer at Capgemini. 25 years in the industry. I've seen the evolution of AI. I'm sure a lot of you use Outlook, right? I built Outlook when I was at Microsoft, 1999. And I'm sure you would love less junk email compared to other email provider. You can thank me for that. That was my first AI algorithm I wrote in 1999, 21 years back. My AI journey started over there. Now, I am doing mostly future of AI analytics and also do my part to giving back to community by teaching at several colleges in India and being advisor on some of the colleges to define the curriculum. That's about myself. Let's go round table. Let's hear from Tushar.
Hi, I'm Tushar Vagal. I'm with L&T for the last 15 years as a CIO. Initially, I was with head office, and last 8 years, I'm with L&T Realty as a CIO and the CTO. Before that, I was in startup. So I spent 15 years in startup. So that's totally on 30 years of experience. And L&T Realty is into smart buildings, and we make smart homes and smart commercial real estate. We make malls. Okay, so that's a background.
That's great, Tushar. Thanks. Thank you. It's great to have you on the panel. especially we'll learn from you how we are going to use this and in smart homes and all. Thanks. Let's go to Mayank.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. This is Mayank. I'm the CIO at Pramerica Life Insurance Company and been here for the last 12 plus years. I've been all through with insurance and, worked in technology company, Cognizant prior to this, and started off my career with AIG, Tata AIG now, or Tata AI now. Responsible for driving the technology transformation, digital transformation across the organization, covering all the three pillars on the technology side, applications, infrastructure, and security. So that's about myself.
That's great, Mayank. I'm sure every one of us, right, touch one of the things in the life insurance every time we have to do that. So that's Mayank. We'll hear from you more. Let's go to Dr. Anish Agarwal.
Thanks, Mukesh. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Dr. Anish, working with NatWest Group in the capacity of Director for Data and Analytics. Been with the organization for close to 7 years now. In total, professional journey spanning over 2 years in data and analytics since 2005, in what was defined as business intelligence in the erstwhile years in the very start period of what analytics is today recognized and understood as. I defended my thesis recently on the topic applications of AI in wireless communication, a different subject altogether, but I thoroughly loved the study and coincidentally I had a good mentor as well. Have been associated with Kamikaze on these events. So this is my 3rd year in the row, and that's about me. Thank you. Back to you, Mukesh.
Thank you. What a panel. We have reality person, we have insurance, and now we have from NatWest, from banking side of it. Great. Let's move on to Mr. Manish Bhatia.
Hi, everyone. My name is Manish Bhatia. I represent Lendingkart. I've been with the company Lendingkart for the last 11 months now. I'm the president here for technology, capabilities, and data sciences. Basically, completely transforming the way we think about lending to MSMEs. Prior to that, I was with Amazon for about 10 years, worked in various different capacities, owned global systems, shopping cart, ordering systems. Before I left Amazon, I was chief technology officer for Amazon Pay for about 3 years. Prior to that, I was in the US, did multiple startups and some different companies. So essentially, I'm quite domain agnostic, if you would, come in with a technology and product mindset and try to solve customer problems.
Totally relate to you, Manish, from technology background now into particular domain. But yes, we also have good representation from startup as well. Great. Thanks, Manish. Let's go to Yusuf.
Hi, Mukesh, and hi, everyone. I work with Tata AI Life Insurance as the head of operations and customer service. Been with the company for about almost 20 years now. So you can say I am also a part of startup. I joined this company when this was just started. But yes, now it's no longer a startup. I worked earlier with HDFC Bank prior to this company. As part of operations, I manage a very large team of workers. And, one of the worker who really, motivates me, intrigues me is the knowledge worker who is this bot. And that's a discussion today. So, they really help us a lot. They don't complain. They don't crib and so on. So, pleasure to be here and look forward to the discussion.
Thank you. So yes, it's all about our own staff, knowledge worker, and when we empower them, we empower our customers as well. Thank you, Yusuf. Let's go to Ganesh.
Thanks, Mukesh. Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for having me on this panel, Harish and B2B Media. I'm Ganesh Ramachandran. I'm the global CIO for Alkem Labs, which is India's 5th largest pharmaceutical player. I've worked across multiple geographies, US, Middle East, and India. In my current role, I help drive digital transformation across Alkem. I've pivoted across areas from my engineering and MBA backgrounds. I moved from selling and marketing soft drinks to marketing credit cards and increasing card member spends, which is where my brush with analytics really started. And post that, I've been a management consultant helping organizations increase their operational efficiency, and I've helped in growing business. I love working across people, process, and technology areas. I'm a certified strengths coach, a Six Sigma black belt, and a few certifications around the IT areas as well. I really enjoy behavioral economics. I find that absolutely fascinating. So for today's discussion, would love to throw in some insights around that too.
Amazing, Ganesh. Definitely I can do, but I did the reverse way, right? I did in technology, now I'm doing sales and marketing. So interesting journey. Great, great, great. Thank you all of you for spending time and being on the panel. We're going to go with Tushar first. Tushar, uh, LNT,
Yes.
right? The reality industry is all about high touch, right? We're talking about space, we're talking about premiumness, all of those parts. How is AI and automation helping, like with the customer interaction and all? How are you able to achieve the wow factor there?
Okay, so while I start, I would like to define three terms. The first is AI. AI is intelligence shown by any machine. Example, my management wants to know from the 30,000 customers who are likely to be likely to buy from us, who will really buy. They think that AI engine can tell them out of the 3,000 people are most probably like to buy this house from LNT. So that's the expectation from people. Okay, who is likely to buy? I then say that okay, that's AI, but what's cognitive? Cognitive is mimicking human behavior. So I say that that's possible. Let's do a chatbot. A chatbot mimics human behavior. So we went ahead and made chatbots. Then we say what's ML? Okay. So machine learning is very simple. Spell check is a machine learning. Now how do I apply that in real estate? I say unidentified baggage in my complex. Somebody leaves a bag. Okay, is it intentional? Who has left it? I should be able to identify it, right, in my complex. We got 5,000 people working out here. So that's ML. We got cameras everywhere. We use computer vision everywhere. So that's about a journey on AI, cognitive, and ML. Now we also do automation. Okay, we have got a smart building. The intention is that I save 20 minutes of every employee's time. We got 4,000 employees in the building. I save 20 minutes. So I save 4% of the time. The 4,000 employees, 400 crores, 16 crores saving. That's how you translate money. Okay, you have to always have outcomes and got to have ROIs. Once you do that, money flows very easily. I must have spent a lot of money doing automation in all the buildings which we have. The last is about home automation. So home automation became a very big fad. Okay, many years back. We also put a lot of money, but home automation was very costly then. It's around 3-4 lakh rupees per apartment. Then came a theme of serial communication, RS-232. So people started laying cables. But then people complain the cabling is too long, too tedious. But today it's the age of Amazon and Google and Apple. It's all wireless. So home automation is mostly on these devices. You got to think about variables which can be used. And then it becomes very nice. So that's our way of working on AI and automation and bots.
Interesting perspective, Tushar. So yes, people keep thinking, when you go to AI, the human touch is lost. But no, here actually you can enable better human touch with AI, and especially the part about how can you predict who's going to buy the house. I think that is the best part would be. Thanks, Tushar, for sharing this. But Mayank, talking about life insurance, right? So implementing this, right? Because life insurance is a product where in India, especially, we see it's skewed towards certain months of the year, and people do it for various reasons. But then, how do you use AI to get more value out of that?
Yeah, see, I think the very fact that people actually buy life insurance during certain specific months of the year, I think that concept itself is flawed, and I think people are trying to change it. But statistically speaking, there is no specific month where you would expect the propensity for somebody to die to be higher. I think that's kind of similar across the year, give or take a few percentage points. But having said that, that is a reality that you gotta live with. So the various facets where people are attempting to apply AI in insurance space is on better risk management or better underwriting. That's one of the areas. People are also trying to leverage it for prevention of fraud, or looking at how can you reduce your overall claims or customer dropouts, which is measured as persistency, how many customers are paying up their premiums in the subsequent years. So these are some of the broad areas within which AI is being deployed. It's not that no work was being done earlier. I think the earlier approach was largely to look at the data, work with mostly the structured information which can be put forth in tables, Excel spreadsheets, apply the best of the analytics software and the best of the personnel that are available, and then try to gauge what is likely to happen. Well, of course, it always remained, a bit of a guess to see how did it finally pan out. Because by the time one would really see the results, the person or the team who would have created those models or those predictions, they would not be available. So the overall life cycle, for getting to see the end outcome emerging out of any of these exercises was a pretty long one. Where AI is actually stepping in is to look at significantly large volumes of data, which could be structured, semi-structured, unstructured. Pick up attributes that normally would not go into consideration when any of the analytics person or a data scientist is looking at the information, and yet incorporate it for determining what that predictive model is going to look like. Of course, there are going to be certain parameters which will have a much higher correlation between the input and the outcome that is being seen. But there would be certain other parameters that may not necessarily be considered at all, which is where AI is actually helping in. But I think where it is really adding value is determining the rules itself. Because if you are able to decide what are the rules, what is the logic, then it doesn't really remain as intelligence. It is something which is more like a logic that you have crafted, created, and now executing it. But where you've got technology, programs, applications, which are actually able to go beyond this defined logic and then predict or suggest, I think that's where the intelligence is really helping. But I think it's still early days. There's a lot that is expected to happen during the coming years, and is definitely going to happen. So I think that's where we will see a real transformation coming in the insurance side, leveraging AI.
Interesting perspective, man. So we are saying, it's not just about business logic, which were always there, but yeah, putting a little bit more power for AI, we're learning from the data, machine learning. So that brings us to the point where the some skills are required specifically. So Dr. Anish Agarwal, considering you have just done your PhD, congratulations for that. And how would you bring that part of, grooming other people and having that mindset about what fields to be used and all, and making it ready for the wow factor? Because I understand AI is intelligence, which means we will not be able to define what you really want, and you just get what you get. How do you bring that up, Dr. Anish?
Great question, Mukesh. And I think there has to be a very healthy balance between the learner and the organization. And I think one thing that the learner needs to really understand or to learn is what to learn. And this is where organizations play an important role in providing guidance. And in my experience, basis my interaction with several colleagues, and I mentor several data scientists and aspiring data analysts as well, and with leadership teams. I think both organizations and the colleagues need to be cognizant of what they need to learn. As an example, if we talk about AI or even analytics, there are several roles which sit within these ecosystems. Now, from an analytics standpoint, there's a completely different role of a data engineer versus data analyst versus data scientist versus a front-end developer. And one needs to have a right clarity in terms of what needs to be learned. That's one. From an organization standpoint, likewise, I think it is important that we offer a career and a learning path to our colleagues. And the focus should not just be for existing individuals who already are working in the analytics team, but I think our focus should lie on the team members who are based out of analytics team within the organization, to whom we can upskill and train so that we have a future ready pipeline for analytics as opposed to having reliance on the external market. Internal learning academies can be extremely useful. I know the world today relies on YouTubes and Udemy's of the world, but I would say that if we have a platform where we can create and identify internal SMEs within the organization, our dependence on the external ecosystem from a learning and development will diminish significantly. And not just that, but it will also ensure that what we are spending on learning would be far more less. Because if we identify SMEs internally, it will rather be prudent for us to recognize these individuals who perhaps will be teaching and training employees in addition to their day job. So learning path is one, SMEs is the second bit. And the third is keeping the learnings warm. So whosoever we have trained, I think it is also important that there needs to be periodic assessments, because the beauty or the challenge, whatever we define with analytical tools and techniques, is if someone doesn't really practice these tools for good 2 to 3 months, the knowledge simply evaporates. So just to ensure whatever has been learned is warm and can be put to task, I think regular assessments is the third bit. That's from me. Back to you, Mukesh.
That's good to know, Anish. Definitely totally relate to that. So my experience, like when I came back to India about 10 years back, when I started teaching, one thing I realized that yes, there are some fascinating things people do in the college and all. Some of them are repeat, but yes, they are always ready to learn new things. But yeah, if you create a structure around that, especially in the organization, for them to come and walk through those will be great. But ultimately, it boils down to what are we doing for the customers? Especially for me, I always worked in a product company. Now working for service company last 2 years. As I mentioned, I'm doing a lot more sales and marketing than I ever thought about it. It's important because a lot of them customer doesn't know. Customer doesn't know what they want, and then they may not be even aware of power of AI analytics and all those. So yes, Mayank, your thoughts and Anish, I think what is required and then how to be done, I think is a good combination. That brings to my next question to Manish Bhatia. So you're at the forefront there in the wow factor, the startups and all, right? Especially in the fintech area. So how are you able to balance that part in getting the people right there and essentially coming up with the new idea what can be done for the customer, what customer really want, considering customer may not tell you what they really want. How do you do that balance, Manish?
A great question, Mukesh. See, overall, if you look at lending, right, lending has been where a customer walks up to a branch, he'll say, okay, I want a loan of 1 lakh, 2 lakhs, whatever that might be. Then he has to go back, fill in a huge form, do a very, very difficult KYC, give PDCs to make sure that the risks are covered. There's a lot of manual stuff. Now, I want to sort of combine AI, ML, automation, robotics, like whatever you might say, to create a really, really wow experience. It will be great for when customers come in, right? And our presence is completely online, right? So when the customers come in, how do they actually go through the entire process of filling in the forms, doing KYC, doing the ENACH mandate, and actually getting the loan dispersed within a day, right? And what does it take for us to completely revamp our backend process to actually get there? So, and if I break that journey up into multiple pieces, with a PAN of a customer, there are multiple things you could pull, maybe GST things like that. And with a phone number and a certain information, you pull CIBIL information. Now, all this data, right? What would generally happen is how much of a risk is the lender willing to take on this customer? That's where most of your AI analytics actually come in to figure out, depending on where this customer stands from a cash flow perspective, from a CIBIL score perspective, and which segments are we going to give it to, which part of this India this customer resides in, what is the geolocation. All these very rich, there's socioeconomics data about where the customer resides, like provides a very important piece of whether this customer is someone I want to give credit to. So that is where the wow factor is the credit underwriting, where how do you completely automate this process, right? Using a wealth of data and making sure that you're able to gauge the customer's intent to pay, ability to pay, and whether is the customer risk bucket something as a lender you're willing to actually underwrite. So and that basically we've completely automated also. So that is where the wow factor comes. Is okay, the customer comes in, gets dispersed the money within 2 to 3 days is where a lot of this intelligence arrives from a fintech standpoint.
Wow, interesting, right? So yes, once we understand the all part, right, they become easier. And of course, I totally can relate to KYC part of it. Even today, right, because a lot of places we have to do manual forms. And that, and the other extreme is you just give your Aadhaar number and you get OTP and you authenticate few seconds. Both extremes are there still exist. Interesting element. Now moving to Mr. Yusuf, if you look at it from the operation side of it, right? So there are a lot of things happen, right? Each of the person is actually handling customers. Some of them handling the backend operations to bring it to life, that the reality of 1 to 2 days or 3 days, what Manish have said, but also in the thing when people are on the chatbot, be able to get the response in seconds, right? So how are you able to leverage AI analytics or automation bots in this area, specifically delighting the customer with the operations element?
Thank you, Mukesh. And yeah, very relevant question. And when you see operations, you always imagine there are thousands of people working and doing processing and so on. And if I go back to 15 years back, how this business was done in India, every customer had to fill in a paper form, attach a whole lot of documents, 3-year income tax returns, and so on. And imagine the physical paper moving from one location to another location, and then the policy getting issued and so on. A very cumbersome process. Just turn around and look at 15 years today. Now everything is digitized. The entire journey is digitized. We don't need the application forms the way Manish mentioned earlier, Mayank mentioned earlier. Aadhaar KYC does the KYC. You get a PAN, instantly get all the details. Even the income details, we have tie-ups with the bureaus whereby you just send the information, you get the income details from there. You run various algorithms to get a whole lot of information. We also, as an industry, have collaborated in insurance, and every company is able to share each other's data through an insurance bureau. So a whole lot of information is available to us at a click of a button. In the sense, a consumer is completing his application form, and by the time the form hits me, everything has been done. And we are able to process the application, issue the case within a matter of minutes and hours. That's the kind of way things are working now. So this is what is really delighting the consumers, because they don't have to really wait for a very long time to process their application. So that's one. That's on the onboarding or the entire ease of doing business, the way it works. What it also does for me as an insurance company, and again at Tata Life, our vision has to be a preeminent protection provider. So we focus a lot on the protection business. In fact, the minimum sum assured on the term business that we give is 50 lakhs, because we believe that anything less than that, you may not be able to really get the value of buying a protection. So for us, the risk management also becomes a very important thing. So with so much of data, and I can say possibly insurance companies have the maximum amount of data of a consumer. So it's personal demographics, the financial information, the medical information, the complete medical details and so on are all available with us. So with so much of data, we are able to process the data, identify risk, eliminate the risk right at the onboarding stage, rather than, keep it us on a portfolio and so on. So that's the second advantage we get. So ease of doing business. Secondly, the entire risk management. And then the entire journey management. So again, his ability to pay, which customer will pay, who will not pay, with whom, how much amount of follow-up. So, I know that Mukesh is a savvy customer. He's got his eNash, SI mandate linked. He will pay. I don't even have to call you or remind you. The money will come automatically. So I'm not really troubling anyone as a consumer segment over there. But at the same time, I know some consumers, I need to do a lot of reminding because they may not remember to pay the premium. So I'm able to customize the follow-up over here. Again, over here, the technology is helping me. I am able to use humanoids to call the consumer. So I'm not really, worried about the capacity. And that's the beauty of technology. What earlier, Mayank mentioned about the volumes being skewed in a particular month or quarter and so on. It doesn't matter us now because, the bots, they can work without complaining and so on. So whatever the volume, I can have today somebody calling 10,000 customer, tomorrow somebody calling 100,000 customer and so on. So in the way it's working is it's helping me to service my consumer by having a simple journey, easy journey for them, managing my risk management, and at the same time not get worried by volumes. So my entire SLA and TAT and all is kind of taken care of. So that's how I'm able to service my consumer or maybe win my consumer by using AI, ML technology and so on.
Interesting, Yusuf. I can totally relate to this because yes, I do get with reminder from some places, but yes, a lot of places they don't send. But the interesting element is they send reminders. Even though I made a payment, they send a big reminder. Please make sure that penalty we will leave it. And in the bottom, if you already paid, ignore this message. Come on, you should know already, right? But interesting. But at the same time, other places, if I'm already paid, I get a message. Thank you for paying prompt payment, and that's it. No more messages. So yes, I think sometimes even SMS, sometimes I'm worried. I made the payment. I'm getting the message. Is it not reflected? And there are times where something has been done but incorrectly reconciled or whatever, right? So anyway, those are good point to thought about. That brings us to our interesting topic of pharma. So now we all are talking about pharma. COVID vaccine is out. A lot of things are happening there. The important point for people to know that, even there, right, a lot of opportunity for AI analytics. Let us hear directly from Ganesh, because I'm not an expert there, so I think Ganesh will be able to speak more about it.
Hey, thanks so much, Mukesh. Thanks for the question. So while I was just hearing all the panelists talk about, I was realizing how much the digital maturity just varies across different sectors. And if I look at pharma and healthcare in particular, I think the industry was tuned to a lot more physical interactions. So whether you were looking at a doctor meeting the patient, or the field teams engaging doctors, or just the way in which the organizations itself was working, it was a lot more physically driven. Physical interactions really ruled the roost. Many of the players in the industry, I think a few years earlier, had started adopting digital, but the pandemic really accelerated many of it. And I think the jury is still out on whether it's going to be physical, whether it's going to be digital, a hybrid model, or what it is. But I think it's very clear that AI, analytics, ML, bots are here to stay in pharma as well. Simple examples. When the lockdown started in March of last year, clearly our field teams were unable to reach our doctors. And we were wondering, how do we engage the customer? Because I think irrespective of industry, that's something that every industry needs to be doing. Keep in touch with your customers, understand what customers are looking for, and serve their needs. So when we reached out about 2,000 odd doctors at that time and checked what are you looking for and what is the problem you're looking at, the concern that they raised was saying, I don't know how I provide care to my patients because I'm not able to go to my clinic at places. Patients are unwilling to come to the clinic. How do I really take care of this part? So what we did was we actually worked along with doctors to set up a virtual clinic platform for doctors where they could engage their patients, not just for teleconsultation, but also to give them reminders on medications they need to take, content to kind of take care of their disease and so on and so forth. So we launched a platform called Connect to Clinic with about 75 doctors. We did a pilot in June of last year. And from August, it's been out completely. We have over 25,000 plus doctors on the platform today. And that entire part is looking at analytics and trying to use AI to say, how can I personalize what is it that your particular patient would be looking for a doctor, while ensuring that all the other things that are there from a privacy and from encryption viewpoints are taken care of. So that's one clear use case that I've seen. And it's not just Alkem which kind of came out. Many other players are supporting doctors in many forms to help doctors in providing better care to patients. The second part has been in making sure that we have the right drugs available at the right places. And that's critical right through the lockdown and even otherwise. Because how do you ensure that you minimize stockouts was a critical thing that really came out. And what you needed at this time was the entire consumer behavior was changing during this time. So if you looked at the way in which it went, you had challenge where there were chronic patients who were probably not, who had a heart disease and needed to go in for an operation, but said, hey, it's not so life-threatening, I can afford to put it off by a couple of months. I'm scared to go to the hospital now. So their medication suddenly increased. And in such a scenario, you need to be able to take care of this increased demand that was there and be able to respond to the fluctuations that were happening. On the other side, there were acute therapies which were not really kind of firing as much, since people were not kind of going through. People were in general a little more healthier. So you did not have some of the infections which were otherwise there when people went out during monsoons and so on coming in. So just making sure you had analytics which played in to understand what is the varying consumer behavior and being able to quickly respond and drive it back through the organization, whether it is from your sales side to your procurement to the manufacturing parts and to supply chain, of course, was a big thing that really came across. And lastly, I think, of course, this has been there for some time now. AI/ML has always been there in drug discovery and development processes, has been more so in the overseas markets. But I think in India as well, you're rapidly seeing this kind of growing traction. And what we really are seeing is stakeholders looking for a lot more enhanced responsiveness. And we are rapidly reaching a stage where it no longer, I think, is something which is a pipe dream, but looking for personalized medicines also being provided to take care of what is the kind of situation you're in, and being able to have it customized to your requirement. So I think these are some of the areas that we clearly see AI, ML, and the whole area of analytics coming through. Bots, I think, have been there right across. So whether you're looking for bots and trying to get cutting edge content being provided, for suppliers to stay connected with you, for being able to pick up orders, for employees to stay connected. I think in all of these, like in many other industries, bots are here to stay. And I think the more you're able to make it seamless and try to make it a better experience that you provide to the customer, irrespective of what's the kind of customer you're looking at. Like in pharma, you have a patient, doctor, your extended ecosystem, including employees as part of your customers. I'm sure similar kind of things are there in other industries as well. So I think the whole level of personalization, responsiveness, and driving agility, each of these are multiple things that we see coming across in pharma as well.
Interesting perspective, so Ganesh. So Ganesh, if I had to summarize this, right, we're talking about the demand part of it. Once we understand the demand sensing, bringing the doctors together, and with the new normal, the way things are moved, amazing. So I have a follow-up question on that, Ganesh. So when we do this part, I'm sure the external factors are there, but do you also look at some of the third-party data? Like how would you get some other data to be able to enhance our AI algorithm so that it can do better prediction? Because internal data only have certain things, but then there are some external data which could be available to do it. So what are your thoughts there?
Absolutely. I think there's a plethora of external data, especially in pharma, which particularly gives you what are the kind of therapy areas which are growing. It gives you by region the kind of things that are kind of coming across. So it is an important feed that comes in. I think the only challenge with some of the external data is how frequently you get it, and whether it is more an early warning that you're getting or it's a later part that you're getting. I think pharma across, there is no dearth of data. It's how you're actually able to use that data for driving your insights. I think that's the more critical part that we really grapple with. And in many cases, pharma has been using the data more post the period is done, which really doesn't help. I think what the industry is looking to really kind of come up with, like some of the players do in financial services, is move to a lot more away from descriptive and probably prescriptive to more predictive, and start saying that this is probably what you're going to be looking for, and hence start working towards these. I think the models are far from perfect yet, but we are moving towards that rapidly.
Okay. Let me bring in Manish. Manish, we talked about with the PAN number, you can pull up the person's income and all those. So this type of third-party data will definitely help you enhance your model. And as Ganesh said, we not being just being inside, but also predictive, prescriptive, and predictive. We can good. So how are you using that third-party data in addition to that, and making sure the sanity is there at the same time, data privacy is also taken care of?
Yeah. So for any model to mature, right, it has its own cycle. So if so it's model version 1, version 2, version 3, and with every version, what you do is you go back in time with all the things that you've done with, say, version 1, right? And now you're going to create version 2, and then you pick certain parameters to say, okay, I want to get X more profitable. I want to make sure that NPAs are lesser, and overall are able to predict where it's going to land. Now, this is with the data that you have. Now, alternate data is what you're talking about, has a lot of power. But what needs to happen is every time you get alternate data, you can't create another model, because that model to mature sort of takes years, right? Or probably months, right? Depending on the time, amount of data you have. Now, what's really, really important is how do you use alternate data? It could be geo data, it could be socioeconomic data, census data, where the customer stays, his behavior, how many health insurances does he have. Like each of that data either adds to or subtracts from the base score, if you will, right, from a model perspective. And then that's how you actually, then you would do an A/B testing. You do an A/B testing to figure out, okay, where does it land? So there's AI ML is lots and lots of data and lots of testing. And you have to be set up to make sure that your infrastructure actually supports them.
Interesting, Manish. That reminds me of some of the platform I built at Microsoft to decide which color of blue, which shade of blue, which you'll be using depending on when you do a search. And if the darker shade gives you better result or lighter shade. And when I came up with this idea, people thought I was crazy. I'm talking about 2006.
And it's amazing how each one of these fonts, color have so much of an impact on the type of metric you're trying to drive.
So totally see, and only when we did A/B testing, when I showed them the result, they go, "Wow, the as you go the darker shade up to a certain point, the click through improves, and after it becomes too dark, then it again drops down, right?" So very interesting. That reminds me of that, Manish. Thanks for sharing it. Now, Anish, all these things comes back to you as a head of data science team. You probably have to implement all of those parts. So how do you make sure your team is always aware of the data, the new data which is around you, and then use them to the right place and find out whether this data is good or not good? And is this accuracy is by fluke, or is this really a robust model you're building? How do you take care of those?
Interesting question, Mukesh. I would say, in the spirit of maintaining honesty, the team's never always aware where the data is sitting. Data dictionary is something that we have always been moaning about. Do we have an ideal data dictionary which talks about where every data set is sitting? And we don't have it till now, I'll be honest. That's one. The second is, I think it's also important to understand, if we take a step back, the quality of data. If I was to say the quality of data at our enterprise is absolutely crystal clear and ready for analysis without the need for transformation, that will be a big lie. Well, data quality is also an issue, which actually means that irrespective of whatever the analyst is doing or whatever clarity an analyst has, which table needs to be joined and which golden source of information needs to be used, the level of quality of data does make a significant dent in the overall turnaround time of a project. That's the second bit. And I think the third bit is trying to understand the suitability of data for a specific analysis. In majority of cases, the very first step towards an analysis is send me or let me extract as much data as I can. And then I will see which are the suitable rows or suitable columns and which data sets do I actually need. I think the only one thing that we do differently here is at the time of scope, we are absolutely crystal and clear in terms of what is it that we require from a data point standpoint. That actually helps us to filter out and direct request and choose the right golden source or the source of information from where we would perhaps need to extract data, which actually means that it also significantly reduces the turnaround time, which perhaps may have to be spent on transforming the data and looking at how the data travels from a data lineage standpoint. Back to you, Mukesh.
Yeah. 72%. 72% of the time is spent in preparing the data.
I would say it's 95% for us.
Oh, is it? Okay. Good. But that reminds me, in 1999, when I moved to US working for Microsoft, and I got some excitement and I said, okay, fine, can we collect the data when the application crashed? You see the dialog box which says send a report? So I came up with the idea. My manager told me, Mukesh, that's the most pathetic idea I have ever heard. Okay, what are you going to do with the data? And my answer was, I don't know. Okay. And I think I'm not finding enough people to tell me I don't know. Okay. Because I think that is where the answer is. The keeping the minds open that I don't know what I'm going to do. Just give me, I'll do something about it, right? I think that actually helped me do some work there. And then my attitude toward data and everything was changed a lot more than before. But now when I'm teaching at colleges and university, I still see people are still biased with the data and all. And plus the underlying problem is still there. One of the things which I just published a white paper on data exchange, the power of data exchange, wherein how it can actually bring in a lot of useful data across. And one of the tool I created at Capgemini to leverage those to be able to get better in terms of better quality and all. But I would definitely think it's just long way to go. I don't think we are there yet. And yes, solving that problem will be better. But now coming to you, Tushar. Tushar, all the places, right? There is an immediate reaction and response, right? We are talking about application and the consumer feels good about it. But the thing which have longer duration, longer cycle, sales cycle, like L&T Realty, right? When we're talking about it, smart homes, smart buildings, smart commercial complex. So how do you wait for the response to come in? Whether have you taken the right job, right task, or right implementation or not? How do you manage those?
Can you again elaborate? I'm not sure what you said.
The question I'm saying normally for insurance and for the lending, on a lot of places you see immediate response. You build something, you give it to the client, your client start interacting, and you see the response. But especially for Realty, where we implement AI, implement bots, because consumer might start using it, but we might take much longer to see the response. So, what are the measures have you put in place to still get a feeling that is it going in the right direction or not?
See, in the realty space, what happens is we follow the prospects unknowingly, okay, without them knowing rather. Okay, so the prospect may think we are not following them, but there are tools and techniques which are being used to understand who are the customers, what are they doing, the first point of touch, and the interaction. So all that is being monitored. There are solutions which are there, and we interact with them in that fashion. So it is not. I understand that a flat buying may be a 3-month process. Okay, so it elongates over a 3-month process. But there are tools and techniques by which we gather information. The next big thing is going to be that how do I emulate a champion sales guy? Okay, I would ask my sales guys to answer 1,000 questions in a year, and when the new people come in, they will ask that robo, what do I do if a customer tells me to come after 1 week, after 1 day, that tells me meet me at this restaurant, what should I do? So we need those systems, okay, where the youngsters who are coming can get those answers coming in. Okay. So that's my response.
Good. I think that makes sense, because it's all about learning, knowledge what people have gained over a period of time. If you put it into a system, that definitely becomes a good knowledge-based part.
Yes, example is we got more than 100 towers which are built. Now for every tower, there are always some problem.
Yes.
People, because of RERA, put in a complaint. Okay, they say this is the water problem or leakage problem. Yeah, the garden is not proper. So now people just want to put a case. Now we know we have a repository of everything. What possible complaints have come for which tower? What can happen? Some things are valid, some things are not. Okay, so we have to build your repository. If you don't build them, you have to build your video repository. We got toll-free data, we got images, we got text. Everything is built together. Okay, it's all in one repository. And
interesting.
Of course, I use the Azure cloud. I'm a very big fan of Azure, and I have built the whole IoT gateway on the Azure hub. Okay, so millions of records go there. Okay, in a month.
Okay, definitely. Thanks, Yusuf. Then with all this data which is there in the repository, I'm sure it might be helping you with operations part, wherein what decision to be taken, how looking at the historical data. Are you able to leverage benefits out of that, and how are you doing that?
Yeah, Mukesh, a very good question. And while I am very inclined to say yes, we are leveraging the benefits and we're doing fantastic and so on. But the truth is, there's so much of data, and the data tells you so much. We I think are still just scratching the surface. While we are doing some things, in terms of, like I mentioned, on persistency, on claims, on complaints, and a whole lot of other things. But given the size, scale of the data, and what someone earlier alluded, the amount of time you take to work on the data, right? I think there is a huge opportunity for us to leverage the data, to ensure that we are able to use the data to go back to consumers with the right offers, right service, and so on. So the answer is yes, we are able to leverage the data far more than what we were able to do when it was not even the digital format. One of the challenge 15 years back was it was in paper, not even digital. So how do you use it? So we have kind of, walked the journey. Today, data is there in digital. We can leverage and so on. But can we do more? Yes, we can do much more on this right now.
That's great. Thanks for that. So now, like, if you bring it all together, right? We are talking about so many data coming together, so many things that we're doing, and of course, making a value out of it. Mayank, I would like to hear your thoughts about what are the things which we can learn from other industry and make the system a lot more robust in the insurance area as well.
I think there's definitely a lot for the insurance industry to learn, from the banking side. I think how they are leveraging the accumulated data over a period of time, and then using it for better risk management, better customer experiences. But I think the biggest learning, personally speaking, I think I see it coming from e-commerce players, the likes of Amazon, Swiggy, Zomato's. They really know your pulse. They know just about anything and everything in their respective area, and then they use that for creating wonderful experiences. There are small things which actually make an impact. Now consider this, that there is somebody is filing a request for a refund in any of the industries, leaving aside these retail e-commerce retail giants. It is almost a nightmare to get that refund, if at all. And here, the bar is being set of getting a refund in a couple of hours, if nothing less. And it's not that it can't be done in insurance. And I think there are players globally who are attempting some of these things, not on refunds, but on the claims management or the claims processing side. One of such organization is Lemonade, which processed, I think, set up a kind of world record for processing a claim within 38 seconds or less than a minute. Now, that's the kind of an experience that one would really want to create for their own customers, leveraging the experiences, learning which are there in other industries, and not looking only within their own industry to determine what is the best that can be done. Because usually, we habitually, I think, it's human nature, we would peg ourselves against the best in the industry. Number one player, number two player, say, they also can't do it. So why should we even attempt it, or why do you think it's going to be possible here? But I think the customer expectations are actually now being determined by not looking within your industry. I think they are looking at the best experience that they're getting in any of the industries, and they want to peg you against it. They want to hold you responsible for delivering that kind of an experience to you every time that they interact with you. So I think that's where the potential opportunities exist for cross-leveraging the learnings which are there in different industries, bringing it in your own context in the industry that you're working on, and then delivering much better experiences for our customers.
Totally. There's a lot to learn from other industries. So I think one of the things which I experienced last year, not last year, I still keep calling last year because the whole year was not there. Like wiped out on the history. But yes, July 2019, NASSCOM invited me for a conference in Bangalore to deliver masterclass on AI. I went on a stage and I say, how many of you have seen AI near you? A lot of hands went up. Then I okay, fine. If you are only referring to Siri, Cortana, Alexa, or chatbots, you can lower your hands. Most of the hands went down. I agree with you, Yusuf. We are still scratching the surface. And might be a point, right? If you look at it, right, there are a lot can be learned from other industry to make it back, because it's still very, very new, very, very new. And we just, just last year and this year, we launched a couple of programs at colleges, the degree in BTech degree in AI. Finally, we have some college which we are doing now degrees there. So I think slowly we'll get more and more people talking about it. And yes, I think the beauty will be how much people can share. Sharing and forums like this, we will be able to share a lot of our ideas and thoughts. I think those are the times I had with me. Let me go round table and maybe have one last thought from each one of you, and what our audience can take away from this. Let us start with you, Ganesh.
So to me, it's very simple. Actually, don't put technology before the customer. Your customer needs and what the customer is looking for should be paramount. Whatever else you're leveraging, technology or any of the other things, should be something that is aligned with what your business outcome is.
Wow, no technology before. Yeah, ultimately back to customers. Yusuf, what are your thoughts?
So actually, very similar to what Ganesh said, and what I believe is, while there is so much of ML, AI, and all those things, but I think there is one other thing which is very important, which is HI, and which is very basic, human intelligence. So please, don't get lost in all the technology. Apply HI as part of all this development, and then you will get it right.
agree with you, but I keep saying that common sense is not very common. But yes, human intelligence, yes, definitely that comes first before artificial intelligence. That's great. Manish, your last closing thoughts?
No, on similar grounds, see, if technology is felt by the customer, then you're doing something wrong. So I think we have to strive to the point where, it becomes so natural that technology basically just hides behind whatever experiences they're trying to get. So I think that'll be the nirvana state for all of us, but that's where we need to get to.
Great, thanks, Manish. Definitely, it's not about you are selling technology; it's the solution, and customer doesn't care how you get it. Give me better, cheaper, faster. Definitely, they'll go for it. Dr. Anish, your closing thoughts?
I think we've spoken about customer, we have spoken about analytics, we've spoken about organizations. I think my concluding thoughts would be through two lenses at the same time, and that is, first, we have to also identify the rewarding opportunities which analytics can bring to an organization. And I think what's really important today is to look at the value of analytics beyond cost. Enterprises today look at analytics as a cost center, not as a profit center. But this needs to change because everyone is aware of the benefits that analytics, AI, data science, whatever we may call it, the benefits that it drives. But still we shy away from calling analytics as a profit center, but still call it as a cost center. This needs to change.
Definitely, Anish, definitely I'll start my discussion with my management also on this one. Thanks. Mayank, your closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think quite a few points have already been brought in by Yusuf, Ganesh, and Manish as well. But still, if I think I would like to maybe just give a different dimension to these points. Eventually, we all need to focus on delivering much better customer experiences, across any touch point, which has to be better than the previous one. Because that's where we would really demonstrate and not just talk about it, that we are actually customer obsessed, customer focused, customer centric, etc., etc. When we are finally able to deliver a wow experience every single time that there is an opportunity for us to engage with the customer, and the technology necessarily is going to be there, but that's not something that the customer needs to know or customer should experience or customer should feel. The customer needs to feel and remember only the experiences, which should be, superb.
Outstanding. Totally. Ultimately, customer is the king, right? We want to, or the queen. Want to make sure the experience is best. Tushar, your closing thoughts?
So the human cloud is born, okay, and we have experienced it in the COVID period. So it's going to be a gig economy. Okay, jobs are not going to be there. You're going to be working on assignment basis. So with this phenomena coming up, my funda has always been that you should have a very vendor-friendly, outcome-based management. I mean, I'm emphasizing it should be vendor-friendly, and I've done that in the past. Okay, for the past so many years in L&T, people talk about customer-friendly and employee-friendly. I talk about vendor-friendly, because if you're not friendly with your vendor, he is not going to tell you the goodies. Okay, you have to be friendly with him, and you have to work on the human cloud. There's no two ways about that.
Great. Before I give I see one question here. I'll just take this question. I still see a huge gap. This is a question from audience. Still see a huge gap in the soft skill at the front end. Physical bank loan experience is still there, and second one is another. Okay, good question. The question is about the experience the person have in the physical bank or the loan. But do you want to take it? Manish, you want to take this question? Loan experience at the bank.
There's an experience gap, is the question?
There's a huge gap in the soft skills at the front end physical bank. Loan experience,
Yeah. So I'm assuming that what the person is saying is, when the customer actually goes to the bank, there's a gap in the soft skills of the person who's dealing with the person.
Yes.
With the customer.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that we talk about technology, and technology is about scale, right? Is where it has got an egalitarian property, which is it equalizes the level playing field. Which means that if a normal person goes and shops on Amazon, and if Jeff Bezos goes and shops on Amazon, he'll get the exact same experience.
Yes.
So human capital definitely is required to make sure that technology is able to do what it's supposed to do. But if you really have to scale and provide similar experiences and wow experiences, my thought process is it has to be using technology and AI and ML.
Totally. Thank you, Manish. There is another question which let me take that question. The other question is, what about the apps which leak user data and to third party without permission? So thank you for that question. Just to let you know that I was part of the committee at Niti Aayog who drafted the data protection bill. The bill is in the final stage of draft. Hopefully that will get approved soon. That takes care of some of those parts. And those were my recommendation, right? No wonder all this MMS, SMS get leaked because somebody has access to your data. Unfortunately, we have to accept photographs, everything to make the app work. So these are the things, sorry state, unless there is a regulation, we cannot stop that from happening. So yes, I think whenever you click accept, do you really want that app? Do you really want the app to access your photographs and your other things, right? I think those are the things which probably will have to stop. Anyway, with that, we are at the final stage. Let me give one line of my thought process. If you look at it, it boils down to two elements. One is data literacy. How are we literate ourselves? How are we able to use the data the fullest extent and bring this part of AI at the ground level so people can use it and to the benefit, and it's the overall benefit for the client and customer. As Manish said, right, it's the same experience if Jeff goes to buy it on Amazon or we go to buy it on Amazon. I think the same experience. I think that is what is required to make it better for winning customer in this era of bots, AI, and automation. Thank you all. Great panel. Thank you all for interaction. I enjoyed being a moderator. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Mr.
Thank you.
Mukesh. Thank you so much, our esteemed panelists, Mr. Ganesh, Mr. Yusuf, Mr. Manish, Dr. Anish, Mr. Mayank, and Mr. Tushar. It was a pleasure to have you all.
Thank you so much. It was lovely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you. It was great having you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.